Hello and welcome to the Q&A for Enter into Your Heart Space through Devotional Chanting with Krishna Das. I'm Carrie Hernandez with the Shift Network, and I'm honored to be your host as we explore the teachings and music of Krishna Das and address questions about his course, Enter into Your Heart Space through Devotional Chanting, a journey from challenges to kindness, compassion, and love, which begins May 13th. That's a Wednesday, May 13th, 4 p.m. Pacific. If you're unable to join us live, you can absolutely still participate in this course, and I'm going to explain more on that later. But first, I want to introduce my guest. Krishna Das has been called yoga's rock star with his soulful voice that touches the deepest chord and even the most casual listener. Krishna Das, known to friends and family and fans simply as KD, has taken call and response chanting out of yoga centers and into concert halls, becoming a worldwide icon and the best-selling Western chant artist of all time. He has released 17 albums since 1996, and he performed at the 2013 Grammy Awards, where his album, Live Ananda, was nominated for the 2013 Grammy Awards for Best New Age Album. Now, please, it's my great honor in welcoming Krishna Das. Welcome for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful to be here. The only question is, how do I live up to that introduction?
You already have. We're all done. I'm looking forward to my next question prompt, which is, would you like to lead us in an opening, please, and thank you?
Sure, I'd like to do that. So I'm going to open with a short prayer that I learned many years ago in India. And the way I describe it these days is that this chant invokes the love that lives within us as who we truly are. So it's not too long. Here we go. Pranavam Pavanakuma Kalavana Pavaka Janagan Jasurvadaga Saint Rama Sarachapadha Atulita Baladhama Himashala Badeham Tanujavana Krishna Jnaninama Graganyam Sakala Guna Nidhana Vanaranam Adhisham Raghupati Priya Bhaktam Vatjatam Namam Roshpadi Kritavarisham Mashiki Kritarakshasam Ramayana Mahamala Ratnam Mande Nilatmajam Anjananandaram Viram Janaki Shokanashanam Isamakshantaram Ande Lanka Vayankaram Ulangya Sindho Salilam Salilam Yashokavahi Chanakatmaja Adayatane Tadahalanka Amamitam Pranjaliranjanayam Manojavam Maruttatulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Vardishtam Atatmajam Vanarayutamukhyam Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Anjane Matipatalanam Kanchanadrikamane Avigraham Parijat Karumula Vasanam Pavayami Pavamananandanam Yatra Yatra Raghunatha Kirtanam Tatra Tatra Katamastakanjalim Vashpavari Paripurna Lochanam Martinamat Rakshasantakam Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, well, I know we have so many questions here for our Q&A, so let's go ahead and explore some questions for Krishna Das as we prepare for his video course, Enter into Your Heart Space Through Devotional Chanting, which begins Wednesday, May 13th. And you can visit our website, chantwithkrishnadas.com, all one word, chantwithkrishnadas.com, to learn more about this 6-week video course, and you would also find a link to register. All right, we're going to start with our first question from the webcast, and a couple is asking for some guidance here. We would like some help in learning how to keep our hearts open in the face of adversity.
So would I. Well, what do you mean by keeping your heart open? That's a question, too, that needs to be answered, or at least addressed. The way I look at it is a willingness to meet each moment as it arises, a willingness to work on our knee-jerk reactions to things, a willingness to be honest with ourselves about our feelings and our reactions to things. There's no, when most people talk about open heart, they think it's a particular type of feeling, so they want to grab that feeling. They might think of it as a blissful feeling. But the problem with we human beings talking about bliss is that we don't actually know what it is. When we talk about bliss, usually we mean pleasure, or a lot of pleasure, or a really good pleasure. And that's not actually bliss at all. When there's pleasure, there's pain. And when there's pain, there's pleasure. They call this the pairs of opposites. Fame, shame, loss, gain, pleasure, pain. So if we want to keep our hearts open, first we have to find our hearts. And that's what chanting is about. It's finding out what that means. What is that space within us, that presence within us, that is open and aware, at peace, kind and compassionate, unafraid. So if we want to keep our hearts open, first we have to recognize what we're talking about. So the way I look at it is that the chanting practice, or any spiritual practice, That gives us the strength to let go of the stuff that keeps us closed down, that keeps us locked in reaction mode, that keeps us identified and suffering with the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves. So it's all about training to let go. And there's many ways of angling in on that process. And the more we understand what's required of us, the more our actions will bring the fruits that we want, which is we want to be happy, we want to be open, we don't want to live in fear and shame with guilt and greed and selfishness. So these are all the things that we have to deal with in ourselves because they're all there. And that and nothing else is what's causing us the sting of daily life, and especially in a time like this when there's nowhere to go. How much TV can we watch? After a while, we're faced with our own minds over and over, our own fear. So one must establish a practice, any spiritual practice. And we'll talk about more what that means, what a spiritual practice is and what it isn't, as we go through the different weeks in the course.
Thank you. All right, our next question is asking, aligned with what I think you're saying up next here, is, do you find that chanting offers the same benefits as meditation? Is it a different means to the same end, or does chanting offer different benefits? Thank you so much, Joan.
Well, it kind of depends who you ask. If you ask me what you're doing, I will say, yes, chanting is definitely a meditative practice. Also, I don't know what meditation means to you. Once again, these terms are used very loosely. The basic first part of meditation is calming the mind, is developing the ability to actually pay a little bit of attention to what we're doing, whatever we're doing. So we add a practice to our lives, whatever practice, and we do it regularly over time. And we make some effort to actually do it with sincerity and integrity and a little energy, which is not always easy. So the first step in any meditation really is learning how to calm the mind and land a little bit in this moment, and develop the ability to not get caught by every thought, every emotion, every story that goes through her. So this is what every meditation will try to do for us, every practice. But every practice has slightly different angle, slightly different intention, a little different flavor. But essentially they're all the same. They're to liberate us from suffering. And the suffering comes simply from us believing we are who we think we are, which is not who we are. It's who we think we are. So all meditative practice, including chanting, will do that. Will begin to liberate us from that. Now, in India, where I absorbed all this at the beginning, they believe that these chants that I sing, which are called the names of God or the divine name, have within them seeds of reality. Every repetition of the name, they believe, is a seed that we plant in our mind stream or our life stream. And depending on how we plant those seeds, that determines how quickly and in what way that seed grows. So there's a lot more to talk about at this, but that's a basic thing. And so actually for me, chanting is no different than any other meditation. It depends how we do it and what's the shadow behind our practice. What are we trying to do? Avoid pain, avoid who we are, avoid our stuff, or get pleasure, or get this kind of experience or that kind of experience. We have to free ourselves from all that stuff too. So It's big time stuff.
Joel is asking, I'm doing non-dual spiritual practice where I go into my body deeply and eventually sense a beautiful expansiveness, and I still feel in touch with my ground of being. And I have a fear that devotional practice may bring me into an outer world spaciousness where I'm not connecting well with people or even myself. Do you have any comments for me on this?
Yeah. Well, this idea about non-duality, it's believed in India mostly that you cannot reach non-dual reality except through the forms, except through the dualistic state, which is what we are in. When you say non-duality, you have a whole array of concepts about it. And when you talk about what your experience is, you still exist. You're having that experience. So that's duality. You know, Maharaji's temple, my guru, Neem Karoli Baba, that's him there. He started Hanuman temples all around India. And now they had to rebuild the gateway into the temple. And when they rebuilt the gateway, they called it the Neem Karoli Baba Temple and Ashrams at Kenchi, which is the name of the town, village. But that's not what he called it. He called it the Shri Advait Sankatamochan Hanuman Mandir, the Shri non-dual destroyer of suffering Hanuman Temple, which is why he feels different to me than many other saints, many other teachers, many other gurus, because he was rooted in non-duality. So you have to examine whether you're clinging to some concept. And don't be afraid of anything. You know, if you're afraid, then do it and see what happens. You know, nothing's going to hurt you. There's nowhere you can go. You're here, you'll always be here. Devotional practice is a way of gathering the threads of one's mind and life together and weaving a rope of those threads and tying ourselves to the feet of true love, real love, which is who we are, which is who everybody is, which is what exists 24/7, 365. So, thus spake Krishna Das.
Gabrielle is asking, do you believe that it makes a difference if you chant in Sanskrit, or is chanting in English the same?
Well, I think there's a difference. And the reason I think that is because when we chant in English, every one of those words we understand conceptually. They mean something to us. Even if they're beautiful, devotional, ecstatic chanting, there are still storylines, which is in our conceptual thoughts. And then we may have deep feelings involved of emotion and pleasure and all kinds of wonderful feelings. But the true meaning of these names of God is who we already are. Is our own true nature is not different than so-called God. Where is this God? God lives within us as who we really are. So even though there are storylines involved with most of these names, of course, in India, they call all the myths and the stories of the deities, it's understood that the real meaning of the name is beyond conceptual thought. So through the repetition of the name, gradually but inevitably, the presence within us is uncovered. You see, when we sing in English, like this beautiful stuff, and they call them bhajans in India, and here they call gospel songs. Jesus met the woman at the well, and this and that, and beautiful stuff, and can really juice your heart out. And that's all good, all good. But it won't take you past that. The name comes from a deeper place. And so through the repetition of the name, gradually but inevitably, that place within us, the presence, the living being within us, our true nature, is uncovered. So there is some difference as far as I'm concerned, but that's just the way I look at it.
Marie is asking, how can I choose a personal mantra if I don't work with a guru? I'm a Zen Soto Buddhist, and we don't have this devotion with mantras. We have sutras.
Get back on your cushion and look at that wall. Don't move. You can pick any mantra, and there are Buddhist mantras. There are wonderful mantras. The names of Amitabha, the names of Avalokiteshvara, Chenrezig, names of Tara, Kuan Yin. Those are not outside of your tradition. They're outside of your practice mode, so to speak. But you do chant sutras, which are also, in a way, mantric in essence. And you can do any mantra with awareness, with presence, the same way you sit. Anything, it's what you bring to that moment, not the thing itself. So you can take any mantra that you're attracted to. And once again, it's your motivation and how you approach the practice that's the most important thing. I sat Zazen. If I hadn't met Ram Dass and went to India, I would still be sitting Zazen, probably. I used to sit at the San Francisco Zen Center. I loved it. But then my path opened up in a different direction.
Thank you. All right, our next question is, do you have a specific chant that you can recommend for people who are in recovery from addiction, specifically around reducing that craving?
Don't do it. That's about it. All chants, any chant, the most important chant is the one you do. There's no sense trying to talk about this stuff to people, to anyone who doesn't relate to it. In the case of addiction situations, there's so many reasons that we get addicted. So many reasons. One has to dedicate one's whole life to overcoming those issues within that force us again and again to throw ourselves away and lose ourselves and treat ourselves like garbage. There's so much behind that, but there's no quick answer to that. No one mantra is going to solve that particular situation. You can add this chanting practice to your life. Any chant, any practice will help, because through these practices we get the strength to release those compulsive behaviors. We train ourselves to release the automatic identification with every thought and story and feeling. We're trying to get in a position where we get a vote over how we react to what arrives in front of our face. So it's a big deal. And there are so many types of addictive behavior. So, of course, any practice will help, but there's no instant cure for that. There's dedication to developing a way to live in the world in a good way. But so many people don't believe that they're worth that. And they don't feel that they have they don't cherish themselves as a human being. We haven't been trained to take care of ourselves. It's something we have to learn, and it takes time. The practice, of course, is very helpful, any practice.
Jeannie is asking, does chanting bring you to a state of no mind? And if we begin to understand the words, will that change the experience by then engaging our mind, our thinking mind?
Like I said before, I don't know what you mean by no mind. Do you mean it brings us to a place where we completely immersed and we're unaware of anything, like in what they call nirvikalpa samadhi. You're in a bliss state, but there's no awareness. There's that famous story of the yogi who goes down to sit by the river, and he asks his devotee to bring him a cup of tea. And he goes and he sits down the river and he just goes into a trance of nirvikalpa samadhi. And he's in trance for 20 years. And he comes out of the trance, he says, "Where's my tea?" So that kind of samadhi, that kind of experience, that's not very useful. Because in that experience, there's no karma burned off. It's a blank space. So, how to define what you mean? I don't know what you mean by no mind, but just do your practice every day. Do some. Give it your best shot. Your life will change from within. How you see the world will change from within. And you might gradually develop a way not to be too hard on yourself. And I'll take that. Forget about I don't even want to know about no mind. I just want to live in love, in the space, in the presence of my guru, who is love to me. And he's also the love in everyone. So that's the deal, as far as I can tell.
Thank you. Linda is sharing, I have a paralyzed vocal cord. I've lost my high notes, and I'm grateful for the sound that I am able to make. But I'm still very self-conscious, and this is my barrier, I feel, to chanting, and I could use some suggestions for kind of moving through this to the other side with much gratitude. Thank you.
Sing louder. Sing as loud as you can. Screw them. They don't like it, let them leave. It's not about music. It's not about how pretty it sounds. It's about what you bring to the moment. Do it completely. Do it wholeheartedly. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It only seems to matter what you think. Let it go. It doesn't even matter what you think. But you're identified with that. You're caught by that. Let it go. Again and again and again. And eventually it won't mean so much to you. There's a guy I know who has the loudest voice in the three worlds. It's unbelievable. His voice is not bad, but it's so loud. So I said to him, look, go sit in the back. I love you. You're great. You don't need to sit in the front row. Because when you sing, I can't hear anybody else but you. Just go in the back. So it's all okay. It's not such a big deal. I've also lost a lot of my high end, too, on my voice, too, just from singing too hard. And when I first started, I was singing like a rock and roller. So I had to get over that. I had to learn how to sing, actually. I went to an opera singer who taught me how to sing higher up in my throat. You might want to try that, too. There are exercises you can do, even if your vocal cords are paralyzed. You can still do exercises and open your throat up and learn to sing also, regardless of the situation with your vocal cord. So I would explore that a little bit, certainly. But ultimately, the God within you hears your heart. Doesn't care about your voice, the quality of your voice. That God is the love that lives within you, and that God loves you, and you are that. So just remember those things. It's not about music.
Thank you. And if you're just joining us, we are here with Krishna Das and learning about his course, Enter into Your Heart Space through Devotional Chanting, which begins on Wednesday, May 13th. So please log on to chantwithKrishnaDasQA.com. It's a mouthful. I'm going to say it again, chantwithKrishnaDasQA.com for all the details and to register. All right, let me get to our next question. Dear Krishna Das, I have recently lost my older brother after a year of battling brain cancer. He was a wonderful, inspiring, spiritual man. What kirtan would you recommend to embrace the love and tenderness of such a beautiful spirit while encompassing and sending love and support to his family as well? Respectfully, Namaste, Paul.
There's really no one particular kirtan to recommend. What you recommend is that you let your heart expand, and you bring the family, you bring your brother into the space with you in whatever practice you're offering. It doesn't have to be a formal practice. There's no button to push to make anything okay automatically. Practice is something that takes time to bring fruit. But that being said, when you have a situation like this, you can bring that person who still exists in space with you, even though they're not in a body. They didn't go anywhere. They dropped the body. That's what they say. So I haven't done it yet, so I can't tell you for sure. But you bring that person to mind or to heart, and you sing with them and sing to them, and let the love flow, and the family and everyone who's suffering from that. And so there's not one chant that any chant will work as long as you're bringing your own heart to it and expanding that heart to include all those folks, all those people. All these chants mean the same thing. They mean who you are, not something else, not something up in the sky, not in somebody else. God, Guru, and Self are not different. Love exists, and it exists within us as who we truly are. So whatever we do that brings us in touch with that presence and that vastness and that unending love benefits everyone. Everyone.
Gary is asking, can chanting help with anxiety? I experience much, and I'd like to know how.
Well, for sure. I mean, it's not going to help tomorrow, but over time it will help. There's no rule that you can't use other methods to deal with these kind of situations. If you're really suffering from anxiety, which is crippling, and fear, which is crippling, and panic attacks, there are many ways to deal with that. There's nothing wrong with going to therapy, counseling. There's nothing wrong with taking medication to help you get through the day. But within all that, you could also begin a practice. There's an incredible Tibetan Lama named Mingyur Rinpoche, who was recognized as a reincarnation of a great Lama at a very early age. And later on in life, he revealed that he had extraordinary panic attacks, having to sit in front of many people as a child, and he was crippled by them. But he had very serious teachers, and he was trained to do really the kind of practice that I could never even aspire to doing. And through the practice that he was taught, he was able to transform that panic and live with it in a different way, which is extraordinary. So his book is called Joy of Living, one of his books, Mingyur Rinpoche. So you could look him up. But once again, there are many ways. You have to find a way to deal with this. There's no button to push to make it all okay right away. But it's not so much the anxiety. It is the anxiety, but it's also what we do to ourselves because of the anxiety. You know, we go through the day afraid that we'll get an anxiety attack. So we're already tight, we're already tense, we're already almost begging for an attack. We can't help ourselves. So there's so much that goes on around a situation like that. And yes, meditation, chanting will all be helpful, but not like a button to push and make it go away. You must commit yourself to finding a way to live in this world as a human being with other human beings in a way that is pleasing to you, works for you. And you can do that. There's no question about it. It can be done. But you have to commit to that. You have to understand what that means to you. And then engage with it. So.
Mariana is asking and sharing, saying, I am wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the qualities of your practice and how they've changed as you've aged. I'm 68 years old, and I've had a long-standing seated meditation practice and have struggled with consistency in my asana practice. I've noticed that there are shifts in my energy level and basically a flux in my interest or focus as I've gotten older that seem to play a part of this. Curious if you've experienced anything like this, and how would you address it?
What did you say? I'm having attention span problems. Oh yeah, I've been experiencing a significant amount of cognitive decline, as they say. Sometimes I can't count from 1 to 2 when I do pranayama before I'm lost, you know. But it's not, once again, it's not result-oriented. Practice is not about results. It's about doing it. So you should not be worried that you can't do this, you can't do that. You simply do the practice as best you can. And notice all the stories you tell yourself about all the stories you tell yourself, what you believe again and again. Yeah, as you get older, the way you live in your body changes. You have less physical energy, but at the same time, you might be freed from a lot of concerns that pushed you around as a younger person. So there's kind of a trade-off. So it's the doing of the practice that plants the seeds. It's not how you see the results. It's not how you evaluate your ability to practice or your ability to do asana, or it's about the effort and the dedication to doing the practice that plants the seeds. The results are not up to us. The work, the following the longing that we have to be free of suffering, to find real love, that's what's important. But we can't create the results. We only plant the seeds. So if you think of it that way, you plant the seeds as you like, in the best way you can. You can only do the best you can. And yeah, the mind, the body gets pretty tamasic, kind of yucky and sticky and can't really, do anything. But that's part of life. You can still practice. It's just yucky and sticky, but who cares? It's the practicing, not the evaluation of it, that's important. I talk a lot about practice, but I don't mean like it has to be formal, sitting down like this and not moving. No, it has to mean aligning yourself with the longing that you have to live a good life, to be a good human being, to be kind and compassionate and unafraid, to be free of shame, to be free of guilt, to be free of fear. This is practice. It doesn't have to be sitting cross-legged like this, but you want to align yourself with that longing and really and honor that longing within yourself.
Thank you. And I'm imagining the rigidness, so thank you for the permission there. And I'm going to share, we do have time for more questions, but before we take those, I want to give you a few details about Enter into Your Heart Space through Devotional Chanting with Krishna Das. This is going to be a transformative 6 weeks where Krishna Das will guide you through skills to release negative thoughts and return to kindness, compassion, and love, as he was just talking about, and where he will share weekly practices to deepen your understanding of spiritual archetypes as well as devotional personalities through the lens of his own powerful life stories. And each class session will open with a chanting practice, and there's going to be plenty of time for question and answer woven throughout the session. And we do want to note that we've received some questions from people who are interested in this course and asking, will it be just with Krishna Das, or are there going to be other teachers as well? And we want to clarify. Krishna Das will be the only teacher of this course. There won't be any other teachers. This 6-week course is going to be taking place on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, starting May 13th. And very important, if for any reason you're unable to join us live, you won't miss the teachings. You'll be receiving audio and video recordings, transcripts, and any handouts through your course homepage. I'd also like to remind you that we offer a no-risk, money-back guarantee on all of our courses. We give you a full 2 weeks, in this case until May 27th, to really make sure you absolutely love the course. And as an added option, all participants are welcome to connect on a private Facebook group. We host a community group on Facebook specifically for this course so that you can stay connected with one another. I do want to share that everyone who registers receives the Enter into Your Heart Space through Devotional Chanting bonus collection. This includes 2 albums and a mini video tutorial. Firstly, you'll receive Kirtan Wala. It's an audio album from Krishna Das. Krishna Das offers a westward-leaning album fully embracing his American roots in rock and country while embodying the spirit of deeply devotional Indian chants. Second album is Trust in the Heart. It's an audio album from Krishna Das. It's his 15th album and his newest full-length release. Krishna Das offers the bare essence of Kirtan, a calling out to the divine presence within ourselves. And you'll also receive Harmonium Tutorial Song, Govinda Hari Pilgrim Heart. This is a video teaching from Krishna Das, and you'll get to follow along as Krishna Das's mini video tutorial. You'll learn to play KD-style chords on your harmonium, designed for those of you who have some familiarity with playing music. And I want to let you know that if you register by midnight Pacific, May 9th, you'll receive an added bonus thank you, which is live in New York City, an audio recording of a live workshop with Krishna Das. You can be one of the first to explore this newly released deep dive into the strength of a compassionate heart. Listen in as Krishna Das shares his powerful wisdom on the vibrant topics, including faith in the practice, forgiveness, and love and kindness, and so much more. All right, thank you. Let me go ahead and get to our next question. Joan is... Oh, please, yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to really enjoy this because we have 6 weeks together, and there'll be a lot of back and forth. So every week we'll build on the week before. And there's so many things I've learned. I've been doing this stuff for over 50 years. So there's so many things I don't even know that come out of me when we start interacting. I'm going to be really enjoy sharing with you the stuff that, that has become such an integral part of my life. And we're going to learn how to hang out in that open space, in the space of love, without all the intensity, and it's like opening into the vastness of the sky, in which everything is held. There's nothing outside of that. Everything is held within this vast space. And this is the sky of the heart. So all these practices lead us to that presence. And over this 6 weeks, I think we'll really, all of us, me too, will be able to enter in a very wonderful way into a deep space, which will carry over into our daily lives.
Thank you for sharing that. How about a couple more questions? And I know that we have an ending chant to share. First, our question coming from Carmen. With greater heart presence, I'm noticing that I'm feeling more world pain in this world right now, and the pain of humanity as a whole. I'm asking, how can I experience that pain in a whole and healthy and helpful way?
How can I experience that pain in, what was that?
How can I experience that pain in a whole and healthy and helpful way?
You know, the great beings feel everything that all beings feel. But it doesn't shut them down. Their hearts are as wide as the world. And so they're able to experience the suffering in the world, all of it, without closing off, without having to protect oneself. This is a fruit of practice. This is a fruit of the path. One time a reporter once asked the Dalai Lama, he said, "Your Holiness, are you happy?" So the Dalai Lama replied, he said, "Well, you know, I guess you could say I've had a hard life. I had to take over was taken from my parents at an early age and raised in a monastery. I had to take over the reins of my country, political and spiritual, as a teenager. I had to negotiate with China and ultimately escape over the mountains to India. And now I live as a refugee. And I had to watch while the Chinese slaughtered millions of my people." Then he said, "The Chinese have taken everything from me. Am I going to let them take my happiness too?" But this is big time. This is big time. That happiness, that love that lives within us, it can't be touched by the external world, what we call the external world, when actually everything we see is part of the program, our own programs, our own subjective reality, that in terms of our reactions to it. So, yes, we can learn to live that way, definitely, because these great beings, the bodhisattvas, the saints, they're doing it. They've done it. It's possible. And they've left the path for us to follow, for that to be accomplished by us, or realized by us. So there's no question of it. It takes dedication. It takes really wanting it. And finding a way to incorporate that in your life. You know, my guru, we used to ask him, "Baba, how do we find God?" He'd say, "Serve people." What? No, you know, how do we raise Kundalini? Feed people. From his point of view, everything we did for someone else, we did for ourselves. And when I was going to kill myself in India, I was having a nervous breakdown right there in the temple where he was, where I was living. And he looked at me and said, "What are you going to do? Jump in the river?" Ha! You know, it was 6 inches deep. And I figured if I got my head under a rock, I could probably do it. He said, "You can't die. Worldly people don't die. That's us. Only Jesus died the real death." Why? Because he never thought of himself. All we do, from morning to night, day after day after day, all life long, we think about ourselves in an unconscious, reactive way. Caught again and again by the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. So we need to extricate ourselves from those habitual reactions and those habitual beliefs that are only true because we think they are. And yeah, it's very hard to not think about yourself because everything we're self-referencing all the time. So the first step is to notice that. There's no button to push, make it all go away, but awareness, understanding, and practice, devotion and love, and wisdom, this is the way to go.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful, beautiful time with you. And I want to thank everyone being with us and your questions. Enter into your heart space through devotional chanting with Krishna Das begins Wednesday, May 13th. And again, you can visit chantwithkrishnadas.com to learn more and register. And I would love to invite Krishna Das for another chant. Thank you so much.
Sure. So every week we'll be doing some practice together, different types of practice, not just different chants. We'll do some Buddhist type meditation, some awareness meditation, and we'll do chanting every week for sure. So the main chant in my lineage, which is the lineage of Hanuman, monkey god, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. So let me sing a line, and then you repeat. You go back and forth for a little while. Also, we'll sing Sitaram, Sitaram, Sitaram. And we'll talk about where these chants come from and what they mean in this world. And we'll also talk about how they work and how they purify our hearts and help us see the love everywhere. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Sitaram, Jai Sitaram, Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Shriram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. 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 Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Shriram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. 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 Jai Jai Ram. Shriram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
So much love and gratitude. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. This has been a truly beautiful hour, and I thank everyone for being with us today. And again, this is our preparation for Enter into Your Heart Space through Devotional Chanting with Krishna Das, which begins Wednesday, May 13th, and you can visit chantwithkrishnadas.com to learn more and to register if you'd like. Krishna Das, again, thank you so much. Do you have any final words for us?
See you around.
Many thanks. I'm so grateful to you and for this time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. On behalf of all of us at the Shift Network, I wish you well, and I look forward to having you on this course or one in the future. Thank you.